I want to encourage you as a spiritual exercise of the day to find time and prayerfully reflect on 1 Kings chapter 8. That's where we got our brief passage today, but there's so much more going on. What is happening is this is the moment that Solomon, son of David, king over Israel, is acting just like his father as a priest, and he is dedicating the temple upon its completion. So he's standing at the altar, raising his eyes to heaven, offering sacrifice to God, and consecrating this whole thing with this prayer. So this prayer is of tremendous value because it's going to touch upon a lot of important questions, as well as understanding what this space is even intended for in the first place. We who have inherited such sacred space just see it as part of the furniture of our life, but because of that, oftentimes might not be asking, well, what exactly is this for? And here is Solomon asking God to achieve various things in the context of this space that can open our eyes to what God has given to us and that we've received from our own ancestors. But for today's purposes, I want to focus on one aspect that Solomon marvels at. He says, and this isn't an exact quote, "You, O God, whom the heavens themselves cannot contain, how is it that you could dwell in this space?" I mean, think about that. We're so used to ideas like the Eucharist and the tabernacle and things like that. But imagine being present to the very first temple ever. Now, they had the Ark of the Covenant that journeyed with them in the desert and things like that. But this is the moment where they stop and go, how is this even possible? How is it that a God who is infinite, that is all-powerful, all-knowing, that not even the heavens can hold in their grasp, is now going to be right here? Now, the theological answer to that is that in order for an immaterial being to be physically present, if I could even use that language, is simply to say, this is where that immaterial entity animates and operates. So for example, your soul isn't contained in any one particular cell of your body. Your soul is animating the entirety of your body such that the entirety of your soul, if I could apply material language, is present entirely throughout your whole body, all at one moment. Even in the demonic realm, when we talk about this person is possessed, it doesn't mean that the devil is now bound inside of that person's body. It means he has total control and therefore can animate according to his will and his principles. And so for God to dwell in the temple is for him to say, I will be acting here and in this space. So when you come and you offer your sacrifice to me and you ask me for forgiveness, I, here in this space, respond to your prayer. I am present to you in an immediate sense, giving you my full-on attention so that you, who are bound to the material universe, can physically go somewhere to encounter me and receive from me your life. One of the things that God does when he does this habitually is he tends to overshadow the place. So remember Mount Sinai, when they finally make it out from Egypt and they get to the mountain. If you read carefully how it's described, there's this big cloud and this overshadowing, and there's all kinds of fireworks and pyrotechnics going on. Later, in other times, he'll overshadow the ark, and then when there are visions from the prophet of God's presence departing or arriving, it's this shadowing that comes down. Where this becomes mind-blowing is that at a certain point in history, when it comes to the trajectory of God's presence among his people from the Garden of Eden and then to the ark and then now into the temple, which if you remember is a new Eden, it has a cosmic face to it. Eventually, it's going to become the Virgin Mary. When she says to the angel, well, how is this going to happen? How is this supposed to be? And he says, well, the Holy Spirit will overshadow you. And it's this, in the Greek, it's the same word that's used to apply to the dwelling place of God in the temple. And so now, Christ's body becomes the new temple that is dedicated to the Father, dedicated at his baptism. But then, because he's going to give us the Holy Spirit in our baptism, you are the temple of God. You become the locus of God's activity in the world around you, in the lives of the people who encounter you, so that when somebody asks you for mercy, your heart becomes the altar of sacrifice, where they, before God, are released from their debts. It's this, I don't know if I'm capturing this well, but it is this profound theological development that takes time and real prayer and discernment to really understand what is happening, to the extent that the wonder that Solomon expresses in this physical temple, this architecture that he's standing in, should be but a shadow of our own wonder at the amazement of the things that God is doing for us here in St. Madeleine's church, but in us as a new temple, a new dwelling place for God. What does that mean for this space? What does that mean for you in your life and in your personhood? I told you yesterday that Solomon liked to 7 things at the cultivation of this, at the development of this temple. So it was it took 7 years to build, and in the 7th month, they had a feast day that lasted 7 days. And in the reading that I'm encouraging you to read, there's 7 petitions. Go and read those 7 petitions prayerfully. Thank God that you too have such a space in your life to come where all of these opportunities are given to you, and then ask God how you can be all of those things for the people in your life.